All right, looks like we're good. Lord, I cannot hear you, but I'm going to wave your hands if it's bad, but I'm going to assume that it's good. So you should probably remove that stream
Yeah, dude,
volume
here,
icon too.
there's a little stream volume thing.
But yes, hello everyone, and welcome back to another run here at Anime Speedruns Festival. My name is Rizgrastar, and this is going to be Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. So full disclosure really quickly, I do not have the best internet, and I was worried that I would not be able to reliably provide a good live stream for this event. So, Anime Speedruns Festival was kind enough to allow for asynchronous submissions, meaning that we could record and submit a run if we wanted to, so that's what I did. So I'm just going to get it started here, and then I'll continue to introduce things. So, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 is, of course, a sequel to Dragon Ball Xenoverse, and it follows much of the same storyline. First, it does rehash a lot of the traditional Dragon Ball Z story that we're all familiar with at this point. But beyond that, it has these little changes to history. The story of this game is you're playing as a time patroller who is going back through little events that have been messed with by the villains. And in this game, you can play as 5 different races. There's Majin, Saiyan, Earthling, Namekian, and the Frieza race. In the new game, which is what this category is, any percent new game, you're required to have your race-specific transformation in order to progress, in order to be able to actually take on the final boss of the game. And each race-specific transformation has unique requirements. As such, on top of each race and gender too, just having different kinds of fighting combos, it actually does make a difference what race you play as. So, with the capability of having an asynchronous submission for this marathon, I thought that it would be fun to not just record a single run and submit it, but rather to submit 2 different runs, one as a Majin and one as a Saiyan, to kind of have a bit of a race with myself. And if nothing else, then a comparison of like the Majin route and the Saiyan route. Um, but as this is a pre-recorded thing, and I'm just providing this live commentary now over it, feel free to just go off and chat. You don't have to worry about distracting me. It's all good. Also, it looks like I may have started these videos at different times, but I assure you I synced them up so the timer will start now. So they are off. Right at the beginning of this, all that we need to do is go around and talk to these people with the little scrolls above their head. All the game is doing at this point is teaching you how the objective mechanic works, basically. It told me to open my map and you can look at the icons, and it's just a way to help the new players, figure out where they're supposed to go and what they're supposed to do at what point. But obviously, we know what we're doing. You can see how how accurate and consistent things are right at the beginning here with this just, very simple movement going around and talking to these people. And then we need to head up the stairs to the entrance of the time nest, talk to Elder Kai, and we'll be given our first mission to go back and help defeat Raditz, back when he was first fighting Goku and Piccolo in the anime. While they're running up the stairs and doing that, I want to talk a little bit more about the requirements for any percent new game compared to New Game Plus. So with New Game and New Game Plus, in both cases you start as a new character. Unless you're doing New Game Plus Inheritance, where you can play as like a level 99 character, but I've never run that category. For New Game Plus, both characters are new, but on New Game Plus, you get to play on an existing save file. Whereas New Game, it's a brand new save file. Why that matters is that at some point in this run, in the Majin Buu saga, you're required to have 15 TP medals. Those are Time Patroller medals, and they're granted to you for completing missions that are not part of the main storyline, typically just one per mission. So these can be parallel quests, these can be expert missions, these can be training sessions with the various mentors that you can find around the map. But either way, you need 15 of them total by the end of the Majin Buu segment. And so if you're playing on an existing save file, chances are, or at the very least, you should have prepared ahead of time those 15 TP medals in order to have that requirement checked off right off the bat. Another reason why it's different is because on an existing save file, you also share Zenny between your characters, the money in this game, the basic currency. And why that's important is there's an NPC in this game that we'll be seeing very soon, and we'll visit him, I believe, 3 times over the course of the run, crammed right at the beginning. Um, and from him you can purchase levels using money. And so it's a really nice way for making a new character to quickly get yourself boosted a little bit, just so you're not, struggling quite as much with those earlier battles. You can just get through the early game a lot faster, a lot more reliably. You don't have to worry as much about your health loss, etc., etc. So we'll be seeing him soon. He's an old Namekian named Tosak. But first, we're going to switch vehicles really quickly because the default vehicle this game gives you is trash. And this is where we're going to see the first variation, really, in the run between Majin and Saiyan, because so much of it is the same. Um, but this is where it's going to split. So we're both going to talk to Yamcha, but only the Majin is actually going to train with him. Um, as for the Saiyan, they're immediately going to go down, and we're going to train with Piccolo instead. So the reason for this with Yamcha is we need both characters. Whatever race you play, you need to at least speak with Yamcha at the beginning of the game. And the reason for that is it unlocks the possibility for Yamcha to host a special training course at some point in the run. And what this training course is it's him throwing the turtle stone like in the original Dragon Ball series, and you need to go out, find it, bring it back to him really quickly. If you bring it back to him quickly enough, he will give you 10 TP medals. And as I said earlier, one of the requirements for beating this game in the new game category is having 15 TP medals. And so getting 10 all at once from doing a relatively quick thing is huge. There's currently not a really valid substitute for it. Why we beat Piccolo as a Saiyan is beating Piccolo grants you Evil Explosion, a skill that you can use in this game. And we need that because that's a pretty crucial part of the current Saiyan route. The reason for that is when you are in the Super Saiyan form, once you have actually used your transformation, if you use a charged Ki Blast attack, like a charged Ki Super rather, you will automatically teleport to your opponent before you unleash the attack. And so Evil Explosion being a chargeable Ki Super is perfect for that. What you saw right there was I went into the time nest and it immediately started spitting out these different cutscenes. Unfortunately, as the game continues to update, as it receives new DLCs, free or otherwise, they continue to put new cutscenes into this game. So since my world record of this game, I believe that at least 2, maybe 3 different cutscenes have been added to the beginning. So I've had to change up little bits of routing, to accommodate for that. But for the most part, it's the same. I still get the cutscenes out of the way right away, etc. Why I talk to the stylist is just because if I don't talk to him now, eventually he'll just pull me out of the time nest to tell me that he can change my attire, change my look. Because at this point, all we really need to do in order to progress the story is talk to Elder Kai and then do the tutorial parallel quest. One thing you can see me do right now is I drop down in front of the store, I quickly unequip my scouter, the one that you start with, I sell that, I sell the Senzu Essence capsule that I got from just speaking to that female NPC by Piccolo. And now I'm talking to Tosak, just buying my preliminary levels, just to help this initial parallel quest go a little bit faster and a little bit more smoothly. So this is the only parallel quest that we'll be doing in this run. It's just required as the tutorial to introduce you to the concept of parallel quests. You can go in with allies, up to 2. I choose to go in alone because oftentimes, more often than not in this game, NPC allies just are bad. They tend to just hit your opponent like once or twice to ruin your combo, and then they back off. So this first section, we're just finding these 2 items. It's to introduce the concept of using a scouter while in a parallel quest. The scouter lets you see hidden enemies, as in like, not hidden, but like, through a wall or something, or hidden items. Thankfully, the 2 items that you need to get in this parallel quest are consistent. They're the same area, like the same exact location every time. So it's really easy to do. Pop in through this portal, and now it's going to teach us how to revive a fallen ally in a parallel quest or an expert mission. So we're going to be flying ahead right around this little island here to our downed buddy Krillin. So while I did go in with no allies, we are going to have Krillin. It's just a necessary part of this. There's no way, as far as anyone has so far found to skip any of this parallel quest. So we have to revive our buddy. Something interesting to note, though, about bringing allies in is that any ally you bring into the parallel quest with you, they actually are set at the same level as you are. And that can be pretty significant because since we purchased levels from Tosak before coming in to do this parallel quest, I believe right now we're like level 8, I want to say. Um, and so all of our allies that came in with us would also be level 8. And when it's, the very first, it's the, tutorial parallel quest, they don't expect you to be too strong. And so having those powerful allies along with, your own powered self, it can be really helpful. We're just beating these two Cybermen as quickly as possible and then flying to the opposite side of this island in order to encounter the blue Kaiware man. Once again, he's in the same position every time. So while Elder Kai is telling us we can use our scouter to find him, we could just fly and wait for him to spawn. Something I'll note is that between these two characters, as I said at the beginning of this run, each race and each gender within the race has a different combo. They just have different styles of attack. And so, there are different capabilities there. With the Majin female, there's an infinite combo using exclusively the heavy attack, the stronger of the two attacks. So it's just hit Y 5 times, tap B. All right, I'll say use heavy attack 5 times, tap your Ki Blast to just kind of give the enemy a little bit of a stun. Tap left trigger and hold forward, or tap forward and hold left trigger. You'll do a little dash step, and then just resume with your heavy attacks. If you knock the enemy down too far, because the last move of the heavy attack combo is the Majin female, like knocking them down to the ground, you can instead fly down and connect with X, and then resume with your heavy attacks, or connect with your light attack, I should say. But that is the Majin female infinite combo. It is very nice, very useful. I found that Saiyan female has something quite similar. You can see her doing it right here. It's pseudo infinite in the sense that instead of using a step dash, you actually do need to like fly to the enemy just a little bit. However, just that little bit is enough to take up some stamina. And so if you were to repeatedly do it, again and again, you would eventually run out of stamina and be unable to pull that off. But it's a very similar thing. A string of heavy attacks, you'll knock them away, launch a single Ki Blast at them, fly at them, connect with X, or your light attack, excuse me. I play using an Xbox controller. And then get going with your heavy attack combo again. With parallel quests, there are typically always two ways to finish. I say typically always, you get what I mean. There is a traditional ending, and then there is an ultimate finish. The ultimate finish typically requires you to do some fancy things, whether it's like beat this character before anyone else, whether it's keep your ally alive or like above a certain health threshold, whether it's beat it in a certain amount of time, things like that. For the parallel quest, it's always an ultimate finish, and so there's not much you can do with that. What we just saw on the Majin side of the screen is we actually already got the prompt for Yamcha's special training. So what I'm going to do really quickly, just while I'm down here, is I'm going to sell all of the Hercule badges that I just got as a reward for beating that parallel quest. Going to go back over to Tosak, and I'm going to use whatever Zenny I have to purchase more levels. Because after we do the Turtlestone hunt, we're going to want to go straight back into more story missions. We're doing the same thing on the Saiyan side here, selling all the Hercule badges we got. But instead of going straight to Tosak to purchase levels, we also purchased a Super Soul. Your power level is 5, scum. It's Raditz' Super Soul. Super Souls in this game, they're pieces of equipment. You can only have one equipped at a time. And they do two things, basically. Each Super Soul has their own passive ability. And sometimes you do need to use like a specific super skill in order to activate it. Sometimes it's active right from the start. Sometimes it's active once you reach a certain health threshold, etc. But then each Super Soul also has a specific attribute that changes your charged Ki Blast type. So, before I get going on that, you can see Majin picks up the Turtle Stone, Thankfully, it spawned right on the island. That's exactly what we need. So we got the 10 TP medals already from doing Yamcha's Turtlestone Hunt, and we got 1 TP medal for doing the tutorial parallel quest. So the Majin currently has 12 TP medals, because we also got 1 from doing Yamcha's first training session. Now then, back to the charged Ki Blast types. So each different race, again, you have Majin, Saiyan, Earthling, Namekian, and Frieza, has a default charged Ki Blast type. The kind that we want is actually inherent to Majin, which is why we didn't have to purchase a specific Super Soul on the Majin side of this race. As for the Saiyan, though, we want the Saiyan to adopt the Majin's Bomb Ki Blast type, specifically for this mission that we're going into. Right now, we're going into the, Earth history, Saiyan history sort of portion of the Dragon Ball Z storyline, where we're going to be fighting against Nappa and Vegeta. And at the end of this, we're going to be fighting the Great Apes or the Giant Apes, however you want to say it. I see it both ways. And they are very susceptible to bomb Ki blasts. They can be a very big pain to fight otherwise. The game tells you to like grab their tails, but that's really a waste of time. Bomb Ki blast is the way to go. Something to say with this Nappa fight is that this is one of the instances in this game where you actually really do want to beat them as quickly as possible. If you can get Nappa down to below half health before Yamcha finishes saying who cares who it is, then we get to skip a good chunk of dialogue. Believe between like 20 and 30 seconds, so it's very nice. And we'll see is the same thing in actually the very next fight against Turles as well. But there are a lot of fights in this game that are heavily dependent on the dialogue. Like you can get the enemy down to 1 health and then they're invincible. Like you can see we're still beating up on Nappa, but he's not taking any more damage. And at that point, you just have to wait for the dialogue to end. So same thing here with Turles, as we can see on the Saiyan side. We need to get him down to under half health before a certain dialogue trigger, before Elder Kai finishes saying, in fact, he looks just like Goku. So with that last hit, like we got just enough. So Goku triggered his line, this guy looks just like me for some reason, instead of allowing Turles to continue on with his own monologue. So at this point on the Saiyan side, we're just waiting now for the dialogue to wrap up. In the meantime, you can see I'm doing I'm just spamming my Ki Blast, or I'm going in, hitting them for a quick stun, and then grabbing them. And this is just to get a little bit more experience early on. If you hit someone with, I think, 20 Ki Blasts, then you get Ki Blaster at the end of the mission, and that gives you a higher score. And score in this game is equivalent to your experience. And then if you grab an enemy 3 times successfully, you get Grappler. So you can see a flash of it on the right-hand side there as I mash A to get through those screens. And now, on Majin's side, we're just waiting as well. And on the Saiyans, we're heading into the fight against Nappa and Vegeta. With this fight in particular, as opposed to the last 2 that we saw, you do just need to beat them as quickly as possible. Thankfully, once they're dead, they're dead. We don't have to worry for, we don't have to wait for any particular dialogue to finish. And so this is, one way that in this fight you can kind of gauge how well you've done, depending on like the last line of dialogue you got to see. Oh, something else to say. So my characters are both shorties. I made them as short as possible. I made the Majin as bulky, as thick as I could, and I kept the Saiyan in the middle. And that's because how you actually build your character in terms of their height or their thickness, it does affect their stats to an extent. Height determines your speed versus your maximum health pool, and your thickness determines whether you're better at physical attacks or ki-based attacks. So now you can see that we're both fighting the Great Apes here. At this very beginning part, we just need to focus on Nappa, so we completely ignore Vegeta and just try to throw our Bomb Ki Blast at Nappa as many times as we can. And now we need to take out Great Ape Vegeta 2 different times. You can see that they have that purple bar. That's basically a stamina bar. They take damage to that instead of their health until it's fully depleted, at which point they're stunned and vulnerable. And so we want to take out the purple bar as quickly as possible, and then while it's building up, we want to take them out. So as far as anyone's found, this is just the fastest way, just spamming bomb ki blast at them until they're dead. And unfortunately, on the Saiyan side, you might have seen that one of my NPC allies picked Great Ape Vegeta up by his tail. Not only are they invincible while they're being picked up like that, they only take a little bit of damage when you drop them, but their stamina bar refills too. So unfortunately, because my NPC ally went out of his way, to grab his tail for me, it actually wasted, a fair few seconds on Saiyan's part. So unfortunate there, but what do? You can only control the NPCs to, such an extent. At this point, we're just skipping through all the cutscenes so we can get back to the meat of the game, which is actually playing it. And here we're going to see that Supreme Kai of Time wants us to visit the 5 different time rifts that are scattered about. And so, first, before we do that, we're going to go over to one of my best friends in this game. He's an NPC named Jija, and he hates bitter people. And so this is your little tutorial for emotes, basically. Which ally was the one who did it? I actually couldn't tell you at this point. We'll have to go back and see who to blame. But Jija, if you perform the anguish emote in front of him, he'll freak out. He'll be totally scared of you, and he'll give you the full Sayuki costume. And what's great about that is you can sell it. So we grab the full costume from him. We sell it for, I think it's 4 pieces for 20,000 each. We'll get to see here on the Saiyan screen. But then we just take that money. Yeah, 4 pieces for 20,000 each. So it's a good haul right at the beginning of the game. And yeah, we purchased another Super Soul. It's Yamcha's. The base effect of the Super Soul doesn't really matter. What matters is, I think the base effect is just it increases the damage of charged Ki Blast, which we don't really use anymore in this run. It's really just for the Great Apes. But a third effect that I neglected to talk about earlier, purposeful or not, you decide, with the Super Souls, is they each have a limit burst option. Some of the limit bursts are very particular to a character and their signature ability. Like Special Beam Cannon or something like that, right? But most of them are something like activates auto key recovery and boosts attack power. And that's exactly the one that we picked up. It's quite a significant boost to your attack power. The only downside is that you can only use it once per fight, which is basically differentiated by cutscenes. And it lasts about 11 seconds of where you can actually play the game and take advantage of it. But if you use it appropriately, it's incredibly powerful. So on the Majin side, and what we're going to be seeing here for the Saiyan side too, is now we're visiting the 5 different time rifts. And there's one time rift for each playable race. And this is where you will get their race-specific transformation as we progress, just a little bit further, actually. So the reason I'm going in and talking to Majin Buu right now is because that actually activates a number of different NPCs. They otherwise would not be placed on the map, but now they are. And these NPCs will give me food if I talk to them. So now we get to talk about the 2 race-specific transformations we're dealing with here, Majin and Saiyan, how to get them, how they differ a little bit. For Majin, what we need to do is we need to give Majin Buu enough food that he spawns 3 little Majin Buulings. And then if we talk to him one more time, he'll offer to fight us, basically, and see if we're worthy of the Purification transformation, which basically turns us into Kid Buu. If we were to change the color of our character, I just picked the default pink because it's rockin', then the Purification Kid Buu would be whatever color we had chosen. But otherwise, it's basically just playing as Kid Buu. It's a set of skills, etc. So Majin just need to feed him enough and then fight him. For Saiyan, we need to fight Vegeta 3 different times. But in order to do that, we have to be a high enough level, so money is actually important. Money's important for both characters. On the Saiyan side, it's so we can purchase enough levels that we're strong enough that Vegeta will actually be willing to fight us the second time. The first time, it's good. The second time, I believe you have to be level 40. And with the way that we currently level up, we're not quite there until you'll see me purchase one more thing. I'll have to make another trip back down. But for the Majin side, money is important because we need to buy food from the shop to feed Majin Buu. I did say that there are now NPCs just scattered about the map, where if you talk to them, they'll give you food, but it's only like between 1 and 3 food items at a time, and we need to give Majin Buu. Well, we're going to be giving him 99 water. Because that's the only food that's available in the shop at this point in the game. And then we're going to be hoping for 2 to 3 2 or 3 star food items. And so what you saw there was we have another Yamcha Turtlestone hunt beckon. So we're going to be rushing to do that. Because again, it gives you 10 TP medals if it works out for you, and you can't skip that. The reason we have to do it right away is when that yellow pop-up appears that says that Yamcha has that special training class for us, if we don't go and take it immediately, if we decide, okay, well, I want to do another mission first, he will probably be gone. And there's no guarantee that he will ever appear in the run. He could appear 8 times, he could appear 0 times. I have had, both happen. So whenever you see his message pop up in this run, you basically want to drop whatever you're doing, go, do the Turtlestone hunt, and then you can resume. So, the reason that we fought the Great Saiyaman, and the reason that we fought Vegeta, well, on the Saiyan side, we fought Vegeta because we had to. That's just part of unlocking the Super Saiyan transformation. On the Majin side, though, it's a little bit different. The reason for fighting the Great Saiyaman and Vegeta is they both give you an outfit when you beat them. And so we're just going to drop down, not care for their generosity, and just sell everything that they gave us. Then we're going to pop over to the food section, purchase our 99 water, and then go talk to the NPCs and hope that they give us, again, 2 to 3 food items that are 2-star or 3-star. So he gave us 1 pudding. Pudding is great. It's a 3-star item, but 1 is not enough, especially since we were only able to purchase 98 water rather than 99. And because of that, since she also gave us only 1 pudding, I'm talking to a third NPC here on the Majin side to get just 1 more piece of food, like any kind would do. And now we get to go to a transfer shop clerk, warp back to Majin Buu's house. We're going to pump him full of food and pudding until he gives us Majin Buulings, and then we get to fight. What you saw on the Saiyan side was leading up to the transformation battle. So the Saiyan side actually reached their transformation battle first. Now we have to defeat both Goku and Vegeta in their Super Saiyan forms. So right now, it's just us. I believe at this point, we're free to use skills, but I would rather just, try to use that semi-infinite combo of the female Saiyans. But of course, if they vanish out of the way, there's only so much you can do. You relock on, you try to gain control of the situation again as quickly as possible. But the NPCs don't always, the AI just doesn't always work with you in that regard. Now that we've reached this point where Goku is saying this, we're about to be able to transform into Super Saiyan for the first time. So I believe here we go. And Super Saiyan. At this point in the fight, we actually cannot use skills. I'm not sure why they decided to do this, but now we can only use our basic attacks. So we can't use any supers, we can't use any ultimates. We are Super Saiyan, and we just get to punch and kick them until they stop moving. So we've defeated Goku, now we just need to defeat Vegeta. And in the meantime, on the Majin side, you can see we finished giving him food, he spawned his Majin Buulings, now we have to fight Majin Buu himself. After we get him down to a certain amount of health, and unfortunately we have Trunks Kid and Goten fighting alongside us, so they just ruin a lot of combos. But after we get Majin Buu down to a certain amount, we'll get to unlock our Purification, and then fight a little bit more. Unfortunately, he locked me with his ultimate, where he turns me into a cookie and eats me. It just wastes time, it gives him more health. It's one of the most unfortunate things that can happen. Majin Buu's really frustrating to fight against. But what do you do? So here, yes, On the Saiyan side, both Goku and Vegeta have gotten back up, and they are raring to go. I used my Limit Burst to get more damage in, and I'm trying really hard to knock out Vegeta before my Limit Burst goes away, because Vegeta can be, I think, particularly annoying. Don't get me wrong, fighting against Super Saiyan 3 Goku isn't necessarily fun either, but Vegeta has a tendency to fly away a lot more, or do a lot more, like, hit and runs. He could just, like, spam you with Ki Blasts from, the sidelines. Just generally really annoying, ruins a lot of your combos, knocks you back a lot, just wastes a lot of time, so I try to beat him first, generally speaking. Goku tends to be a little bit more up in your face, which, as long as I can maintain control, is better. And so now that I've beaten him, that's the transformation fight for the Saiyan. Saiyan has now done the Turtlestone Hunt, has now finished their transformation, and did so before Majin, I want to point out. Which is fairly significant, in my opinion, because for the longest time, among like the few Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 any% new game runners, there was a debate basically between which was the faster race, Saiyan or Majin, because they were very close in many regards. But the Majin transformation always seemed to be faster. However, after I changed up the routing for the Saiyans, as we can see here, I'm not going to say that either run has been perfect so far, and so it's hard to have a direct comparison. Well, I guess I was mistaken. We're doing the Turtlestone Hunt now on the Saiyan side. But still, it's cool to see that when starting basically at the same time with the transformation segment, Saiyan actually did finish off first. So now that we've done what the Supreme Kai of Time wanted us to do, which was go to each of the time rifts and talk to each of the humans, the Earthlings, standing there waiting for us, just to tell us a little bit about that time rift and what we can expect in the future. We talked to Supreme Kai of Time to check that off. Go talk to Photo Mode Bot. Say, yes, we want to take a photo. Enter the lobby. Immediately spam B to back out of it. And that triggers some cutscenes. Normally, these cutscenes would play after we beat a mission in the Time Nest, and so it would waste some time just pulling us from the Time Nest back down here into the Recreation Plaza. So by loading into a lobby, any lobby would do, like if you loaded into a Parallel Quest lobby or like a practice match lobby, whatever, and then backed out, it would do the same thing with reloading it. Photo Mode Bot just happens to be the closest one who can do that. So right now it's just showing off, look, here's the Hero Coliseum. And, you can't skip this particular cutscene. It just has to happen, so we let it happen. Once that's done, we're just going to head up into the Time Nest and continue with the story. So now we'll be going into the Namekian history, where we're going to be fighting, Zarbon and Dodoria, those folk. And we're not going to equip the things that we've gotten just yet, because at this point we do have, our transformations. But after this section, it's going to pull us out of the Time Nest again for another cutscene, and we planned for that. At that point, there will be an ultimate attack that we want in the shop, and so we're taking advantage of the cutscene pulling us out so that we can purchase that. And then we'll just equip things, our transformation and that ultimate, all at once, just to save a little bit of menuing. So at the start here of Frieza's aid, Zarbon and Dodoria, we just want to knock Dodoria away. He doesn't matter in this particular match. We just want to focus our attentions on Zarbon. We beat him up as much as we can until the point where he reaches his invulnerability, and then we're just waiting for the dialogue to finish. And then once it does, yes, we pop our Limit Burst just to get as much damage off as possible. On the Saiyan side, we knock him away, we use Consecutive Energy Blast, we get him down to the appropriate threshold, it triggers the end of the fight. Now we're going in to fight Slug. And this one is just very, very dialogue heavy. From what I could tell from different tests, there's nothing you can do to speed it up. You do need to get him down to a certain point of health for the fight to be considered over. But we make him reach that health like far before the dialogue is finished. So instead, I might do the thing, yes, where I bash into them and then I grapple them, just to get a little bit more experience at the end of the fight. It doesn't matter as much at this point in the run. Getting those little bits of experience is much more important in the very first fights before you do the transformation section. But it's also just kind of a thing to do while waiting for the dialogue to pass. It keeps them busy, so you kind of just might as well. But now on the Majin side, we can see that the fight is now at an end. Just smash through these cutscenes as quickly as possible. Mash through the mission cleared screen where we gotta get all of our experience. And now we're heading into the fight against Dodoria. This one is very simple. He is not strong. We activate our limit burst right away. We connect with him. We do a full combo. We connect once more and use Meteor Crash, and then there he goes. It's a little bit different with the Saiyan, but you know, it's basically the same. Connect, do some hits. There he goes. You can actually do the Saiyan history where you fight against Nappa, Vegeta, and Turles, and this Namekian history with Dodorian, Zarbon, and Slug. You can actually do those in the opposite order if you want. It's just not faster for the speedrun. There are only 2 parts in this run where you can actually take on story missions in an alternate order, but it doesn't make a huge difference for the most part. Like you just want to go in the order that it has listed. So I don't know why they give an option to do them differently. But as you saw with Majin, as you're seeing now with Saiyan, we run to the skill shop, we purchase Super Key Explosion, the ultimate attack. It's very cheap. This is the first time in the run that it appears in the shop. We needed to do Namekian history before it would appear in the shop. And then we're going back up. I did make a mistake on Saiyan's part. I took my pod and just went all the way up the stairs into the time nest. I believe it would have been faster if I'd talked to the transfer shop clerk like I did on the Majin side. Teleport up nearer the door, pop in my vehicle, and then go through the gate. But what can you do? So here, make sure that we equip our ultimate attack. Oh, and on the Saiyan side, we need to equip Evil Explosion as well. And it's at this point in the run that you're actually going to see, occasionally, not every fight, but you're going to see more of those tactics aside from just like the infinite combos, the basic attacks. We're going to be seeing more of Purification. We're going to be seeing more of Super Saiyan with Evil Explosion. But some fights, it is faster just to use the base character. As long as you kind of can keep control of the fight and, you know what to do for each particular character. Later on in the run, when enemies get to have, a lot more health, when their AI becomes a lot more unpredictable, you can't do much as far as like, okay, I can beat them in like this many super attacks or whatever. But early on in the run, there are a lot of characters where it's like, okay, well, if I use my limit burst, if I connect with a full heavy attack combo, and then I, use Meteor Crash, I can finish them off. So it's really nice when you can get down to that point. Here, unfortunately, you can see Birder on the Majin side is already invincible. There's nothing we can do about that. We just have to wait for the dialogue to pass. And that, unfortunately, is the case in so many of the fights in this game. And I'll point out, too, that while the enemy is invincible, you yourself are not. And so a lot of these fights can actually be really punishing, I believe, to new players. Because, let's say that you did really well. You got their health down super fast. That's great. Well done. However, now there's nothing more you can do but wait. Try to keep them busy in combos, however you may. But you just have to avoid them beating on you to the point of death. And thankfully, like this fight in particular is not too bad in that regard. I don't think that fighting, Birder and Jace, it's not that challenging. But shortly after this one, we are going to encounter a fight where I think it's the biggest difficulty spike in this game to that point. You only have to defeat one of them. On the Majin side, I was able to defeat both Birder and Jace just for style points. I could have, if I defeated Birder and left Jace at full health, it still would have moved on, like, to the next mission at the same time. But you can see on the Saiyan side what we did just there. We were in Super Saiyan form, we charged up Evil Explosion, she automatically teleported to Jace and then unleashed it. So I don't remember if I said that the difficulty spike is in this section or if it's just coming up soon. It's not in this section, mind you. It's in the Frieza Saga section. It takes place on Namek, so. So at this point now, for both characters, both Ginyu and Jace have been weakened as much as possible, so now we just get to fool around a little bit, spam our Ki Blast, hit them with grapples. And then we're going to transition to the next part of this fight. So you see that little cutscene? Now Jace is vulnerable. Now we can actually finish him off. Ginyu, unfortunately, is still invincible. We still just have to wait longer for him. We basically need to wait for Goku in Ginyu's body to ask if the Trunks Ginyu... It gets confusing when you're dealing with Ginyu, right? But ask if he's his friend. After that, he'll be... After the This is Awkward, then he'll be vulnerable again, and we can actually finish him off. So we defeated Ginyu there. We do have to wait for Ginyu's voice line to end just before it'll transition to this final part. But now we need to defeat both Captain Ginyu in Goku's body and Turles. Thankfully, this one is not locked behind dialogue or anything. Once you beat them, they're gone and you get to move on. And Turles is down on the Majin side. Thankfully, on the Saiyan side, Ginyu just kind of walked into my evil explosion there. But you can see just how powerful that evil explosion can actually be with how much health it can take down, especially if you have Limit Burst active. It's a huge boost. And I just realized in saying that, I don't think that I fully finished explaining the height and thickness differences. I know that I said, well, I explained that. I didn't explain why I picked what I picked. So for Majin, we went with, full short, full thickness because we want the speed. We're sacrificing our maximum health pool in order to be faster, like in terms of flying around. And we made ourselves thick so that we are more powerful in physical attacks. And that's because Majin uses, has the ultimate, not the ultimate, the infinite combo on the heavy attack, which is all physical, and it's just very nice. So let's boost that as much as we can, As for the Saiyan though, oh, and then with Majin too, Purification. The main reason that we use Purification is either for a very similar infinite combo, just spamming the heavy attack, or for using the super skill Pearl Flash, which is also a strike attack, so it's physical based, and is therefore benefited by being a thick girl. On the Saiyan side, we picked the middle ground, which I'm a little torn on, but here was my reasoning. The middle ground means that I think we're at about 88% efficacy in both physical attacks and key-based attacks. If you pick fully thin or fully thick, then you're at 100% on one side and 70% on the other. And so being at 88% on both seems like a good deal to me because we are using the semi-infinite combo for the Saiyan, which is just, the physical heavy attack spam, right? But then we're also using Evil Explosion, which is key-based. So I figured rather than lean heavily to either side, since I'm going to be using both styles, I should try to go for the middle ground so that neither of them are suffering, the full 30%. At this point, though, I'm not sure what would be the best for Saiyan. I'm not sure if it would be better to focus on the basic attack combo, that semi-infinite combo the female Saiyan has, or if it would be better to put all my eggs in, one basket and go for the Evil Explosion. Because, not every fight calls for Super Saiyan and Evil Explosion. And sometimes with how you need to have 3 bars of ki in order to activate Super Saiyan, it just, and then, 1 bar of ki every time you want to use Evil Explosion. Sometimes the fights don't work in that regard. They don't work in your favor. And so it's faster to just beat them, normally with a limit burst or something. But here, both characters have now reached the difficulty spike, in my opinion. The first big difficulty spike in this game, I should say. We need to fight against Lord Slug and Turles. You can see on the Majin side, Lord Slug is now invincible. He'll just have that health for quite a bit now. Now we're going to work on Turles because we will need to defeat both of them. We just need to wait until a certain point of dialogue has passed, and then they'll become vulnerable again. One of the nice things about this fight, at least, because in general, I do not like this fight again. I think it's just mean to new players. I think it's, there's a lot of dialogue that I don't think we necessarily need, and it just takes a lot of time. The nice part, though, is while we do have Kid Gohan on our team, it's not any kind of like escort mission. We don't have to protect him. We can, once we lower Turles and Slug, to the point where they're invincible, we can just let them fight Gohan and just stand back and relax. Gohan will not die. We won't fail the mission. It'll be fine. But you could also just keep grabbing them and keep blasting them if you want. Another thing to point out, I'm just saying, is that this race is really close right now. Like I've been playing Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 for, quite some time. I started speedrunning it in 2018. Um, and I was very impressed with how both of these characters performed, both solo and in comparison to each other here. But given the history of the run and the difference between the different races that you can play as, I was very impressed to see that they were both like pretty much neck and neck here, even with both of them having you know imperfect runs. Bad things happened. Yeah, so once Slug finishes saying, I feel a surge of pure dark energy, then they're vulnerable once more, and we just get to finish them off. With Majin, I got juked a little bit, so it's okay. It happens. Here, we're going to weaken them as much as we can as quickly as possible. We just need some of the dialogue to pass, and then Trunks will join us. So we're going to kick Turles away here on the Majin side, switch over to Slug, and try to get him, all the damage. Give him our full business. Saying you can see the same thing, just left Turles, switched over to Slug. Because once the scene transitions, we'll have like a little cutscene that I'll, mash start through, so we'll skip it. We'll see a blip of it. Lord Slug and Turles will actually have the same amount of health, and we just need to finish them off. With the fights in this game, there are a couple different ways that things can go in terms of, when there's a cutscene, when it jumps ahead to a different segment. Um, and it's important to keep that in mind when you're running. Sometimes when you jump to the next segment, you have full health, zero ki, full stamina. And sometimes when you jump to the next segment, you have, whatever you ended off with. So you're probably a little bit injured. You probably have, some stamina used up, but you also probably have ki. And that's the really important thing. It's consistent on which fight that happens. You just have to learn like which fight behaves in which way. For this one, this is the most bizarre fight, I would say, in this entire run. We don't touch Frieza, period. What we want is Frieza to kill Vegeta as quickly as possible. Basically as soon as Vegeta is down for the count, we move on to the next section where we actually fight again. But we're just waiting for Frieza to beat Vegeta. I have no idea if there's any way to manipulate his AI to encourage him to beat Vegeta faster. We can't damage Vegeta ourselves, etc. So Saiyan got to pull ahead at this point because Frieza cooperated. On Majin's side, I'm still waiting for Frieza to defeat Vegeta. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting, and there he goes. So this section with Frieza is a little choppy, just in the sense that we need to get down Frieza's health just kind of like a third at a time, and then, he'll be invincible. In some cases, we jump immediately like into a cutscene that I can skip and then start the next fight. In some cases, we have to wait for dialogue. like what's happening right here. But now we just want to go immediately into Meteor Crash, hope that he doesn't block it, and that'll be enough to trigger the end of that fight. And unfortunately, on Majin's side, he used his evasive to get out of our Meteor Crash. In this game, there are basically two ways to get out of a combo. You can vanish, which costs you 2 bars of stamina, or you can use an evasive, which typically also costs you 2 bars of stamina. Evasives are more reliable. Like, you can't use a vanish out of, at least a lot of ultimate skills, but evasives you can pretty much use whenever as long as you have the stamina to back it up. And so if the AI has enough stamina, not much you can do about that. They can just pop it when they want to. And now, both Saiyan and Majin, Saiyan first, are going into the next big difficulty spike, I would say. The final battle where we're fighting against both Cooler and Frieza. This can be a very challenging fight, even for me, who again, like I've run this for like 4 years now. There are times where sometimes the AI just it bullies you so hard. Like I've still died to this on occasion. I'm not usually worried about dying to this. I'm just saying it's a tough fight. And especially for someone who's new to the game or new to the run, it can be very challenging. It can be a big time loss. And this was even more challenging, actually, before I started running this game. I was the one who introduced the Tosok strategy into New Game. Tosok, again, is the old Namekian who you can purchase levels from, just for Zenny. Before that, you would just go throughout the entire run only getting the levels from the main story. So you would be severely underleveled. And so that means that all of your attacks are weaker. That means you don't have as much ki or stamina. That means you don't have as much health. So I'm glad that we were able to add Tosok into the run just because it makes it a little bit safer. Don't have to worry quite as much. You see, between the two runs, like with Saiyan, we were prioritizing using Super Saiyan and Evil Explosion. With Majin, we were prioritizing using Limit Burst and getting Purification off with as many Pearl Flash strings as possible. Sometimes with Pearl Flash, it's the move where you could see Kid Buu just kind of like swoop down in like a pink aura. It's just a really quick attack. Sometimes you can use that back and forth and really knock the opponent around. Other times they recover like just fast enough that your second Pearl Flash misses. And so you always hope for that good luck. Here, Supreme Hive Time was just telling us, congratulations, you've proven yourselves. You now can fly in this, like hub area. So we're like, great, thank you. We rush back into the time nest, go straight back into the next mission. We just want to keep going with the run. Flying is great and all, but we actually don't really have a purpose for it at this point. So now we are heading into the Cell Saga. Here we need to beat Android 17 as quickly as possible. And we just hope that Piccolo doesn't throw it off too much for us. That's just how this goes in general. If we ever have an AI teammate, we basically just hope they back off and let us do the fighting. If there are multiple enemies, sure, it's great if the AI, like your ally, can keep one of them occupied for you. But for the most part, you really just want them to stand off to the side and look pretty. So, for instance, Android 16 here, like that fight, that last bit against Cell First Form, can go really, really quickly, because you don't have to get him... He doesn't have too much health. You do have to get him down to like a sliver, but he doesn't have too much health. And so if you're not interrupted, just a few combos can finish him off. But Android 16 sometimes really wants to try to help you. And he'll rush in and he'll knock Cell back, and it can waste a lot of time. He is not the worst ally to deal with, by far, but just as an example. So this is another little cutscene that we can't avoid. We could trigger it as soon as we have the ability to fly, but I choose to wait. I just think it's faster because otherwise we'd have to go all the way down the stairs, talk to Fu to trigger this cutscene, and then go all the way back up. So he's just telling us about these, crystal raid battles. It's a PvP thing. We don't care about that. We master the text, we fly back into the portal, into the time nest as quickly as we can, get back into the fight. Also, y'all in chat, you should tell me, how is his name pronounced again? Because I always forget. Is it Fu? Is it Few? I assume it's one of those two. So I'll rely on you to help me out with that. As for me, while we're waiting, as for me and my Dragon Ball Z knowledge, I've watched all of the original Dragon Ball. Just recently, for the very first time, I finished the Cell Saga. I have yet to start the Majin Buu Saga, or whatever comes immediately after. I assume it's Majin Buu, but there could be like a little thing in between, you know? But I'm watching Kai, and yeah, it's been a good time. So here, yeah, we'll just take Mira down as quickly as we can. We want to trigger the dialogue where Goku says, "I give up." And then at that point, we're just waiting. You can see how long some of the dialogue is in this game, though. Because we'd had him down to a sliver for so long. And if it were just a matter of defeating him, yeah, in general, if it were just a matter of defeating the enemies in this game, it would be a much faster run. So right now, Saiyan is just barely ahead of Majin. It's such a close race here. Now we need to fight the Cell Juniors. I will admit, I am not entirely sure what the trigger is. But much like the Nappa and Turles fights from the beginning of this run, with this one, we want to beat the Cell Juniors as quickly as we can because it will skip like 28 seconds of dialogue. If we see the Cell Juniors actually start to speak, like we can see on the Saiyan side here, that means we unfortunately missed the cutoff. And so now we have to listen to Teen Gohan whine a little bit. So unfortunately, because of that, Saiyan just lost the lead that they had. It's gonna pop back over to Majin for the time being. It's not an easy, or rather, it's not a hard skip to hit. Usually, well, for the longest time, I wasn't even aware that there was a dialogue skip in this fight because I would just always get it. And then at one point when I was doing comparisons, I was like, wait, hold on, why was this attempt so much slower? And that's when I realized. I believe it's the third of 4 fights that has a dialogue skip like that. Because there are other fights, of course, where you need to get the opponent's health down to a certain threshold, and then it will trigger like the finishing dialogue, and at that point you just have to wait. But I believe there are only 4 fights in this run where if you get them to a certain point by a certain point in the dialogue, then you actually skip a chunk of it. So on Majin's side, we need to fight the Cell Juniors again. Here, I'm going to try to use Super Key Explosion. It's possible to get all 3 of them in it and have them not guard, and they just immediately die. And it's really awesome when that happens. It's only happened to me a handful of times, like I think 3, you know? But when it happens, it's very fast. It feels very good. That's one of the main reasons we get Super Key Explosion in this run. It's used for 3 different fights. The whole reason behind getting Super Key Explosion, 3 fights. But once you beat the 3 Cell Juniors at that point, you just get to move on. No more dialogue to wait through. So that much is nice. Now, instead of fighting 3 Cell Juniors twice in a row, we get to fight a swarm of metal coolers. Which, to be fair, I think that Cooler, unless it's Metal Cooler in particular, because I don't know, I think it has like the coolest theme. So here, you could see in that brief flash on Majin's side, Cell is part of this fight, but we just want to completely ignore him. It was the same thing with the last 3 Cell Junior fights too. We don't want to fight Cell. We want him to not fight us because he'll just knock us around, ruin combos, etc. You just want to focus on the priority, and that is whatever enemy is going to get us to move on to the next mission. So on the Majin side, we finished defeating all the Metal Coolers we need to there. Now we're going to be warped away to fight more Metal Coolers, and we're going to be using Super Key Explosion again. I think typically I take like one step forward and then I try to use it. And you can see right there, we knocked out 4 of the metal coolers with that use of Super Key Explosion, and that's really good. I always hope for 3. I'm satisfied if I get 2. 1 is disappointing, 0 sucks, and I think the most I've ever gotten. I want to say that at one point, like once, I killed 6, but I actually don't know. Either way, the more that you can defeat with Super Key Explosion, obviously the better, because you need to defeat 10 of them total. And then you move on to the next one where we do the same thing, but Trunks is here, and we need to defeat 2 more than we did last time. So that time we only got 2. Like, I'm satisfied with that. It's obviously not the best that could have happened, but with Trunks being a target now as well, the metal coolers are less likely to, surround me. And so the odds of me getting that many caught in my Super Key Explosion, because, it's just a radius around my character, yeah, the odds of that are just smaller. See, on the Saiyan side, we just got 4 kills with that as well. So that was really good. We're now at 8 defeated on the Majin side, 5 just defeated on the Saiyan side. So still a very close race at this point. If you're really lucky in this fight, Trunks might actually defeat someone. It doesn't usually happen, but it is possible. So for the Majins, we're done with metal coolers. We get to move on to the last bit of this Cell Saga. So now, working with Teen Gohan, we just need to defeat Full Power Cell. On the Majin side, you can see I activated Limit Burst for 2 different reasons. One, obviously, it deals more damage when I'm hitting him with my infinite combo. But 2, part of this Limit Burst for the Majin is it activates Ki auto recovery, and so it builds up a little bit of Ki gradually. With that, once I have 3 bars of Ki, I can use Purification, the Kid Buu transformation, and then Pearl Flash from there to my heart's content. Well, until I run out of Ki. That was the initial plan. I actually ended up weakening Cell enough that I just stayed in normal Majin form and finished him off with, consecutive energy blasts, things like that. And here we have Saiyan side as well defeating Cell. And we're not quite done with him as a character. Now we have, like, I want to say it's the future saga, So we have a few more fights to do here. Help Trunks clean up, the androids. But this particular section, this split in the run is quite fast. Gohan, from what I found, is one of the worst, like, adult Gohan or future Gohan. Either case is one of the worst allies to have. It just seems like he is much more eager to battle than a lot of other characters you'll be teamed up with. Which normally you'd think, like, oh yay, my ally wants to help me fight. But yeah, with this game and just how important maintaining a combo string can be, them swooping in to deliver one hit or like launching a key blast at the opponent can be devastating at times. You can see here the Mira now is invincible for both parties. We just need to wait for the dialogue. And then with the next section, I believe we just need to get their health down to 0 as quickly as we can. So we're going to Limit Burst, we're going to Transform, and we're going to go for it. If he would stop dodging my attacks, that would be great, and there he goes. And Saiyan has almost reached... Okay, Saiyan just reached that point as well. Gonna Transform again. Going to Limit Burst, and going to use Evil Explosion. And almost wiped Mira out in that one hit. I think that consecutive energy blast might have finished him off if all of the Ki Blast had actually landed. But unfortunately, with terrain and with him just descending as quickly as he did, not all of them did. So at this point, we're almost finished with this little future saga. We just need to defeat Android 16 here. And then after we do that, he will come back partnered with Cell, defeat the two of them, and then we're golden. For whatever reason, I'm not entirely sure. I guess it's because this is to represent, again, like Trunks going back, or I guess returning to the future after he'd powered up, you know? But these two enemies, like Android 16 and Cell, are actually really squishy in this fight in particular. Now, I have been hardcore bullied in the past by them. I was, juggled between their ultimates. What I'm saying is I have died on this fight, but that is a rare instance. Usually they're really squishy. As long as you can connect some good combos, like really easy to beat. So this is not a fight that I worry about. You just never know. Whenever there are like two enemies against you, even if you have an ally, if the ally chooses not to participate, if both the enemies choose to focus on you, sometimes, it's just enough to stun lock you between their hits. So now we're going to talk to Elder Kai again. We're going to skip through some cutscenes, but instead of loading us into the next mission, we're actually going to be pulled out of the Time Nest by Supreme Kai of Time, and she's going to run us through the Expert Mission tutorials. There are two this time. With the Parallel Quest, there was only one. Expert Missions, there are unfortunately two. The first one to show off the Great Ape style of Expert Mission, and the second one to show off just your typical, like, villain Expert Mission. Unfortunately, you have to do them both. No way around it. You are not allowed to continue the story mode until you do it. So we're just going to go for it. In these expert missions, I don't believe it's allowed to use transformations. I know for sure that at least some of them are blocked off, but I don't think either Purification or Saiyan, like Super Saiyan, are allowed. The game just grays it out, doesn't let you select it. So the first part is it's showing you, this is what happens when you get mind controlled. So you can see on the margin side here, we're warped into the Shadow Realm. We get to see a dark version of ourselves. What we want to do, we want to launch ourselves toward them, knock them back, vanish behind them, connect with Meteor Crash. Easy as that. Oftentimes, like, they do dodge or they do block, and that's really annoying. But that worked out as well as you could expect, or as well as you could hope for the Majin. But there, on the Saiyan side, you can see it did not connect, unfortunately. Here, on the Majin side, is trying to say, this is what happens when your ally gets brainwashed. Hit them out of it before they actually, like, turn evil. But then, it would just be like, okay, cool, here's what happens if you don't hit them out of it in time. So if you just wait instead, you actually get to skip a little bit of this expert mission tutorial. And that I learned thanks to Sage of Keyblades and Lord Pixel, so yeah, go them. For the giant Key Blast, you can do two different things. I mean, this is what I'd recommend to be as fast as possible. And this is Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. I think the stream does still say Kakarot, but that was the previous run. Apologies if that's disappointing. But for the gigantic Key Blast, either use Bomb Key Blast, you should only need to throw one, or use one or two consecutive energy blasts until it gets launched back at the Great Ape. Now we're going to be diving straight into the second expert mission tutorial. And this one is, again, to show off more of, like, the villainous mode. Thank you, Mike Soul. So you can see here on the Majin side that we're being sent off to a different dimension, basically. You're just sent into another area, and you need to defeat whatever enemies are there. For this particular tutorial, it's just a single Cyberman, so it's super easy. He'll spawn off, you can see him there. We want to lock on immediately, send out a single consecutive energy blast, and as long as they connect and he doesn't guard, it kills him. Unfortunately, he did guard, so we had to send out another one. Not a huge deal, just like a little bit of wasted time. From there, find the portal, lock onto it, and head through as quickly as you can. Now, what we need to do in this tutorial is go and defeat those black crystals. That's what you would do if you were on the outside. The crystals are basically representative of like your allies who are trapped in the other dimension still. And ideally, you want Turles to leave you alone while you do that, but sometimes he just doesn't want that. So we fly over to the crystal, we connect with our light attack, spam it with our heavy combo. It's broken. We lock onto Turles and we launch our consecutive energy blast. Everyone joins in, we pop down, we see him splat in the background of the screen, which is always fun to me. And that's the end of the expert mission tutorials. Well, Saiyan still has hers, but we're very close to being done with both of them. Hey, there we go. You can watch him splat one more time. So now that we've finished those, we have to talk to Supreme Kai of Time one more time, just hiding in the bush, basically. Just to check off, like, look, we did it. Aren't you proud, Mama? And then we head back into the Time Nest. It's at this point in the run where if we haven't had the Yamcha Turtlestone hunt, we would start to be getting a little bit concerned, because we are now heading into the Majin Buu saga. And it's near the end of the Majin Buu saga, after we've defeated Super Buu a few times before Kid Buu ever shows up, that we need to have 15 TP medals in order to continue the story. If that doesn't happen, if Yamcha just never hosts his Turtlestone Hunt event, or if he does host it, but you had a bad RNG, he didn't throw the stone on the island, and you had to drop down to like the main area of the hub in order to pick it up, you probably are only going to get 8 TP medals that way instead of the full 10. At that point, all you have to do is do a couple extra missions. I would highly recommend doing just mentor training missions. Like, for Majin, I would probably do Raditz first one, and then like Piccolo's, For Saiyan, I would probably do Raditz's first 2 missions. And Majin, that wouldn't be a bad idea either. Or like jumping up and doing Yamcha's first one. You just want to do 2 quick mentor missions. You don't want to do parallel quests, because those are just a lot longer. But ideally, you would get Yamcha's Turtlestone Hunt before the requirement. As you can see here, it's just a matter of beating up Broly until he's invincible, and then we can kind of just chill. Like, he's beating up on our Saiyan, but that doesn't matter. Like, we're gonna be just fine, so. After this little scene transition, finish Broly off for good here. Actually knock him out. And then we want to do a little bit of damage to... Like, we want to start doing damage to Buu, but he's going to do this little power-up animation. And so we don't want to do Limit Burst yet, which sometimes I forget and I do it anyway. But your Limit Burst time does continue to elapse while Buu is doing that power-up transformation, or the animation. So you typically just want to wait so you get the biggest bang for your buck. At this point, though, on Majin's side, we're just waiting for the dialogue to pass, so we can just chill out again. You can't get it Majin Buu any further down. It doesn't matter how much health you have. You're just waiting. So this is one of the next biggest parts where you're, again, if you haven't already gotten the Turtlestone Hunt, you're desperately hoping that when you load back into this time nest, the message will pop up. Because I think this is the last time it can until the actual requirement, or like before the requirement. Thankfully, though, both of these characters got him knocked out in like the first half hour of the run, so it was much less stressful for me when I was running these two to not have to worry about that anymore. Here, let's get Super Buu down as quickly as we can so that we can transition to the next. So there on Majin's side, we just did it. As soon as we get him down to that sliver of health, basically KOing him, but the game doesn't give you the satisfaction of it. Then we get to move on. Unfortunately, on the Saiyan side, he decided to use his evasive. I assume that's his evasive, where he basically like breaks himself up into the goo parts. He just disappears for a bit. Just waste time waiting for him to come back so he can fight more. On the Majin side, we need to beat Broly one more time. He has been further powered up. If Broly was not scary enough already, here he is. Thankfully, he's not actually that threatening in this fight. In terms of like dying, I'm never really concerned going up against him, but he can be pretty annoying in terms of his vanishing, his evasives, or his, just general counters and blocking. But beat him as quickly as possible. You don't actually have to beat Super Buu. Once Broly's gone, you're really just waiting for the dialogue to pass, and then you'll be moved on to the next fight, which I consider to be the last fight of the Majin Buu saga in this game. We technically will have to fight Kid Buu afterward, but just because of the way that we've organized our splits generally, we being the runners of this game, I consider this next fight to be the end of the Majin Buu saga. So now we have Janemba. So we activate our Limit Burst to get that extra damage in. We want to get in our infinite combo as much as possible. We don't want to transform. That would take too long in this case. Once we get him down to that health, scene transitions, Vegeta's here with us. Limit Bursting again, just trying to get him down. One full combo and a Meteor Crash. And there he would have gone if not for his evasive right there. So if he hadn't done his evasive, that just would have been, a few seconds saved, but oh well. And now we have Saiyan heading into the Janemba fight as well. So on Majin's side, we're gonna walk up, talk to Elder Kai. In just a moment, adding some attribute points first. And Elder Kai, this is where he would normally say like, "Have you ever heard of TP medals? You should bring me back 15." Since we already have 15, he's just like, "That's great. I'm gonna look at dirty magazines or something." Nah, just kidding. Here's 3 TP medals from my own collection. So we actually do end the run with 18, but we don't do anything with them. So we only get 15 for the sake of the requirement. Then we get to move on. So now we're fighting Kid Buu. Which again is why it's a little weird to say that like we've already finished the Buu saga, but just that the TP medal break, especially if you actually have to go out and like earn them, it's just a weird thing to do in between the saga. And this fight actually leads directly into another one. It doesn't like load you back into the time nest or anything. So it makes more sense for me to continue them kind of just in the same thing all their own. So we want to get Kid Buu down to, on the Majin side, about half of that health bar we can currently see. We want Hercule to start talking. Hercule talking triggers... That's the last dialogue that we need triggered. Okay, it was lower than I thought. Never mind. I said half health. Forget that. It's like half of half. But either way, now that Hercule has started talking, we're just waiting for the end. And Saiyan just reached that point of dialogue too. Now that Kid Buu has been defeated, we get to go and play with some other tough foes. So first up, we have this masked Saiyan. You let me know if you've ever seen him before. Still trying to figure out who exactly he is. I'm sure he's very handsome, but yeah, I don't know. So yeah, let's fight this masked Saiyan here. Just get him down as quickly as possible. This map can be kind of difficult to play in for Majin because, as the base female Majin, we rely a lot on the infinite combo, which again ends with like slamming them down, just like stomping them and they fall. Typically, on most maps, there's a ground that the enemy will fall on, and we can kind of use that to like keep the enemy bouncing, keep the combo going. And there is a ground technically, because you know it's all an invisible box, right, that you're fighting in. There is a ground, it's just farther down than most stages. And so it can be a little bit harder to get the infinite combo going consistently with female Majin in this space stage, you know. So thankfully on the Majin side, my ultimate depleted his stamina because he was about to use his ult on me. So it worked out well. But here again, you can see Majin is staying very close. Mir is defeated. Now we get to move on to Beerus. Because, of course, he had some bad food, and he's not feeling too happy right now. Unfortunately, Supreme Kai of Time cooked for him. And that's something that you do not want. So even though technically Majin is ahead at this point in the run, I think I have the audio on Saiyan because I thought it was really cool how the rest of this fight worked. You can see that I have Beerus locked into this combo right now, and he could vanish out of it. He could use an evasive to escape, but I think he just doesn't. I think I just get to keep doing this semi-infinite combo as female Saiyan until he's dead. And so I liked it as a little bit of a showcase of the female Saiyan semi-infinite combo. Semi-infinite again, just because it does use a little bit of stamina every time you fly to connect. But it just worked out so smoothly that I was really pleased with that. And it did actually get Saiyan ahead in the race as well. Even though Saiyan jumped into, like, started the Beerus fight a little bit later than Majin, they did finish earlier. Yeah, exactly. Beerus could vanish out of it. He could use an evasive out of it. He just didn't. so so I was pleased with how that fight went. But we've definitely entered the end game of this run. We are in, you know, the last few splits here. So now we get to go into the Golden Frieza section. And the first part of that is just fighting off. I believe you have to defeat 15 Frieza's minions. And this one can actually be really punishing as well, especially for a new player. At this point, I've gotten it mostly down to the, you know, where like, okay, I need to do exactly this much to be able to beat them. Especially on the Majin side. Um, it's really efficient to, like, first you start off with your limit burst to build up some ki. You defeat one of them with basic combos, maybe two of them. But once you have enough to transform, enough ki, you just want to do that. Unless they break your stamina, which is unfortunate. But I can guarantee I did not mean to press that button as much. But using purification is really nice because if you can connect with Y and then use Pearl Flash, it'll finish them off. And so you'll see me doing that over and over again. As I spam Y to actually use Pearl Flash, I will get like one punch in too. But yeah. And I just don't have anything quite as efficient yet for Saiyan to do. I'm focusing a lot more on just getting them in the combos. Once I have enough ki, you know, I can do an evil explosion, you know, kind of a warp Kamehameha thing, right? But it's not quite as fast as the Majin Pearl Flash. Like, even though I did have some mistakes or mishaps on the Majin side, you know, with my stamina breaking, with accidentally using an ultimate I didn't mean to use when I meant to just transform instead, you know. Um, Even with that, we can see right now they both have KO'd 12 out of 15, and I'm pretty sure that Majin is just barely going to pull ahead here. Like, now they're at 13, but Majin just jumped ahead to 14. If we can connect, we're going to get 15 here, and there we go. So now we get to fight Frieza. And typically, this fight is not bad. However, Frieza can sometimes bully you pretty hard. one of the mistakes that I would tend to make on this part is I would try to transform right at the beginning of the fight. And what that would usually mean is that Frieza's just going to break my stamina and then hit me with an ultimate, and then I would be in trouble. And unfortunately, on the Saiyan side, I had a lot of trouble just connecting with him emotionally and physically. Um, and so, like, just I didn't have the control that I needed in the fight. I didn't get the like ending dialogue triggered as quickly as I would have liked for sure. But at this point, we're back in control, and we're just waiting for the dialogue to finish. What's really punishing about this fight, though, is if you die to it, you actually have to redo the entire minion fight as well. Like, you have to skip through whatever cutscenes, you have to beat all 15 minions, so it's pretty mean. Once you get past this fight, it's more forgiving. If you lose one of those, you just have to, like, if I lose Golden Frieza, the Nemesis Revenge, whatever, then I just have to restart at that point. But again, as a new player, or especially before we got the Tosok strategy, it could be really difficult. So here we need to get Golden Frieza down. Basically, just need to defeat the first health bar that he has. Once we do just a little bit past that, it'll transition to the next scene where it's Golden Frieza and Metal Cooler. Or not Metal. No, yeah, that was right, Metal Cooler. So at that point, we had built up enough ki that we were able to transform right away. We can use our Limit Burst. We can hopefully connect and get some good damage off while Limit Burst is still active, which again, it gives us some ki auto recovery, and it buffs our attacks. So we definitely want to do that. Metal Cooler's basically dead, so we can switch off, trust that Goku will finish him off, or Vegeta, whomever was fighting him. Or whoever, excuse me. And now finish off Golden Frieza, basically the same way. All right, and despite having like a worse minion fight and a worse Frieza fight before, Saiyan was only just barely behind on that one, so that was really good for Saiyan. Now we get to skip past a bunch of different cutscenes. It's unfortunate how long this section takes just because there are a lot of things to skip through. But we're going to be basically redoing the fight we just did. It's Golden Frieza against Metal Cooler, but now they have this evil purple aura because they've been powered up. The biggest difference, though, is that we start with 0 ki. So unfortunately, we can't do the same thing that we did before of immediately transforming and just going ham on them. You can see on the Saiyan side, I used Limit Burst right away to activate Ki Auto Recovery because I felt that it was more important to get into Super Saiyan as quickly as possible. Whereas on the Majin side, I saved my Limit Burst for the more damaging aspect of Pearl Flash. And I put off getting my transformation until I naturally accumulated 3 bars of Ki by fighting. Now, which one was the better move? I don't know. I could see arguments both ways. Frieza and Cooler can be pretty annoying to fight just with the evasives that they use. Evasives or ultimate attacks. There are a lot of just windows of invulnerability, and that was so unfortunate on Saiyan's side. I was using, my charged heavy attack, because if an enemy is using an ultimate attack and you hit them with a charged heavy attack, not only does it cancel out their ultimate, but it also breaks their stamina. I was going to do that against Cooler there, I believe it was, but my character just missed, just punched the wrong direction. So that was really unfortunate, but either way, both characters are done with Cooler and Frieza, and now we get to go and fight Whis. This fight can be pretty challenging, especially again if you haven't leveled up using Tosok. If you're just at the level that you would be in this run just by playing the missions normally, or if you're doing a casual playthrough and you didn't use a lot of parallel quests or things like that, if you just went from mission to mission, you would be very underleveled, and this fight can be very challenging. Whis has some really good combos. His ultimate can be devastating if you get caught in it. Thankfully, I don't think that happens to either of these two, but we'll have to see. It can be really bad. Because even if it doesn't kill you, it can waste a lot of time as you're caught in that just helpless. At the start, we do have Beerus on our team. Once we get Whis down to a certain point, Beerus says he's going to go wash off the marker. And so you can actually reach a point where, yeah, Whis is invincible until Beerus actually leaves, which I think we saw a glimpse of with the Majin there. But at this point, we just need to get him down to 0 health as quickly as we can. Yes, exactly, Mike. Yeah, the purpose of this fight is basically to prove that you, as a time patroller, are capable of actually like fighting against Toa and Mira. Taking care of the situation so that Beerus doesn't just have to, destroy everything instead. It's very similar to a fight in Xenoverse 1, yeah. So that, proving that you can handle Demigra. Thankfully, in this one, you only have to fight Whis. In Xenoverse 1, you have to fight Beerus and Whis at the same time. And they have super armor. That's so much worse. Saiyan is still working on Whis, but we're almost done on that side. One more consecutive energy blast? No. Oh, out of key, that's why. That would do it. On Majin's side, we're heading into Bardock, the Masked Man. Finally, the Masked Saiyan has been revealed. So we'll get him down as quickly as we can until the scene transitions. Gasp and shock, it was Bardock the entire time. What a twist, 100% agree. Who could have seen that coming? So here on the Majin side, we're defeating Mira and Bardock. We just need to, connect our combos as much as we can, spam our ultimates if we have them, especially while we have Limit Burst going. Or not ultimates, our super attack in this case, Pearl Flash. Because once they're dead, they're dead. So that's good. Well, for this fight. Obviously, they can come back in later fights. So on that side, on the Majin side, they're down. On Saiyan's side, we're just getting into the Masked Saiyan Mira fight. But we've got our Super Saiyan 3 active. We've got our Limit Burst. And, wow, Bardock is already gone there. Go Saiyan. Limit Burst, Super Saiyan, Evil Explosion can be really powerful. It's such good burst damage. So on the Majin side, we're fighting against the hero of Toki Toki City, like from Xenoverse 1. At the beginning of the game, I didn't talk about it, but you might have seen that I used, I just clicked through and I picked the default, the one at the top of the list. It's the default male Earthling from Xenoverse 1. And that fight can actually be really hard against the hero. He just has some good combos. His ultimates can be really good. I mean, you can see there on the Saiyan side, he's just using something I can't really counter all that well. I just kind of have to wait for him to get tired and be done with it. But hopefully we can control him from this point. Won't have to worry about it too much more. We flashed into our Super Saiyan. We're going to use Evil Explosion. Hopefully take him out sooner rather than later. As for Majin, we're heading into the fight against Toa. This is the penultimate fight, I would say. The final battle technically has 3 fights, like 3 phases, but I'm going to say that this one is the second to last fight. Usually, Toa is not bad. She does not really have great combos. She's not very, powerful. The issue that she has is she just has a lot of time-wasting stuff. Like, her combos can, get you in good, and, she can maintain control pretty well, which is bad for us. She has evasives that make her just disappear from the map for a time. What we really want is right at the beginning, we want her to use her ultimate because it's a non-damaging ultimate. it provides a healing aura. And so while she's casting that, we could break her stamina and then just go ham. But unfortunately, she didn't do that here. She was much more elusive, which was not great for poor Majin. But now we have Saiyan entering the fight against Toa, and hopefully this one will go a little bit better. As for Majin, though, we are entering what I consider to be the last fight. Again, it has 3 phases, so you might consider it 3 different fights, but either way. We're fighting here against Mira, and this is the 4th of the 4, so like the final fight, where you need to beat them or get them down to a certain threshold as quickly as possible before a certain line of dialogue passes, so that you can skip more intended dialogue. So thankfully, on the Majin side, we were able to do that. I don't remember how much it saves, but it is one of the most like costly mistakes that you can make in the run. Like if you, I mean, sometimes it's not even a mistake. Sometimes the enemy just doesn't cooperate and you just can't get them down fast enough, you know? But being able to skip a huge chunk of dialogue in this first fight is nice, because otherwise it can go on for like 2 minutes, I swear. This is also the only fight in the entire run where when the enemy is invincible and you're waiting for the dialogue to end, so are you. So you can see Majin, I'm just letting him beat up on me because it genuinely does not matter. I am not getting any weaker. You know, I have full stamina because I'm not trying to evade him. I have full ki because he's beating on me so much. And it looks like on the Saiyan side too, we were also able to get the dialogue skip. I think it's you want to finish it before Toa finishes her inconceivable line. You want to get him down to like this sliver of health. So it really can be a challenging thing to pull off, but thankfully both characters did in this case. Now on Majin's side, we're finally moving on to the second phase of this fight. We just have to KO him as quickly as possible. We do have Toa on our team. We don't really want that, but you know, she's there. Thankfully, Mira decided to use an ultimate that we were able to break him out of, so he doesn't have stamina. We can just combo him with ease. Super nice when it goes that way. And now we're in for the final fight on Majin's side against Furry Mira himself. So while it's certainly possible that he can use an ultimate that we can, you know, break him out of, we can, you know, completely deplete his stamina, cancel the infinite or the ultimate that he's using, like this one that he's doing right now. Most of his most of the ultimates he'll be using, we actually can't touch him during. And that's just, you know, he's the final boss, right? And so they give him powerful combos. Or powerful ultimates. He also has a ridiculous, you can see how many bars of ki he has. And I think each of his ultimates only takes 1 bar of ki, which is insane. Because, like, every ultimate for the player costs between 3 to 5 bars of ki for 1 use. So for how powerful his ultimates are, they cost like nothing. Here he's using an ultimate on the Majin side, which he's invisible. I just kind of have to take his hits, do my best to survive him. And we have Saiyan now fighting Furry Mira as well. So again, as far as races are concerned, this is a very close one. Especially too on Saiyan's side, you can see he had his stamina broken. We were able to get in some good evil explosions for free, basically. It was very nice. With Majin here, we're going with our infinite female combo. Just the heavy attack spam. He's on his last bar. We just need to get him down. But of course, he's using another ultimate that we can't hit him through. And he broke our stamina with it. You can technically, if you're really good, and he's using another one, you can evade some of these slashes. You don't just have to sit there and guard it. But it's advanced tech that I have not had that much practice in, and I honestly usually forget. But here it is. We got the final hit on Majin, and now there's the final hit for the Saiyan. So you can see with Majin, 136.29, 136.33 for the Saiyan, a 4-second difference between the two. It was a super close race, and I was super pleased with it, and I was happy to see that for both characters, we actually got the special ending. The typical ending, it depends on how quickly you beat the final boss and how much health you lost. The typical ending is you do a Kamehameha, and Goku is the one who does this Dragon Fist attack that we're about to see. But instead, because we beat it quickly enough, because we had enough health left at the end, we get to see this special little scene for both of them. So I think that's super cool. Another thing I'm really happy to say is that this is actually the fastest any percent new game say-in time. I'm going to submit it later, but I wanted to wait until I got to show it off first here at the marathon. But yes, 1:36:33 is the fastest say-in any percent new game time. Currently, the board is not split between the races, but it still is meaningful to me. So I was really happy I was able to do this, especially with again like 2 to 3 cutscenes being added since the last say-in run. But this is the end of Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 any% new game. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you've been enjoying ASF in general. Next up, I believe we have Mike Soul playing Dragon Ball GT Transformation. So, yes, I hope that you're looking forward to that. Thank you again so much. And yeah, have a good one, everybody.